Hi, I was really excited for this week's reading because I love books, and also the realistic fiction genre is very different than what I usually read. I'm usually more into like murder mysteries and romances, so this was a good difference from that. With this week's reading, the textbook mentioned that realistic fictions don't always have a happily ever after. I love happily ever afters, and in my opinion, a happily ever after book can make books better. So I prepared myself this week for not having books with happily ever after, and I was pleasantly surprised because some of my selections actually had a happily ever after, which made me happy. So this is my personal response to realistic fiction. Ooh, my bad. So the books that I read this week were Just Listen by Sarah Dessen, An Abundance of Catherines by John Green, and I watched The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. So Just Listen. I loved, and I can't capitalize on that enough, loved this book. The book is about a girl named Annabelle and her life. In the book, she has a rough home life, and she has an extremely rough school life because she's going through a fight right now with her best friend. Luckily, when she's at her lowest point, Owen, the hero in the book, comes and shows Annabelle the power of truth and of love. This book has a happily ever after, which makes it so much better. Even though Annabelle's life was so different than mine in high school, or just so different in general, I could still connect with her in the story in so many ways, which really surprised me because we were so different. Annabelle, even though she has a rough home life, Annabelle is very family-oriented, which is just like me. She also believes that keeping things in is better sometimes than telling the truth and hurting other people's feelings, and I especially agree with that. Sometimes I feel like it's better just to hold things in and let people believe that everything's okay rather than telling them the truth and risking hurting their feelings. So you can see in the screen here, I have a picture of a glass house. Well, in the story, Annabelle and her family live in a glass house. So I chose that picture because they live in a glass house, but also the glass house has a deeper meaning for the story. It's more like at any point in her life, you see it was only at the surface, but it could break at any moment. So it's like she lives in a glass house, but also her life is a glass house that could break at any moment. And I could really relate to the glass house aspect because I think everybody has that same aspect in life. That everyone's life at one point or another, they've lived in such a fragile state that one thing could happen and your life just comes crumbling down. So we also have this quote right here. It says, "Just listen." It's really important for this book because Annabelle learns that sometimes it's better to just listen and not talk, because at that point you hear the truth and you hear what really is going on. And I actually like that. Sometimes it's really hard for me to not talk. I love talking. However, sometimes I've learned that it's just better to listen because you learn a lot more that way. I loved this book so much that I've actually started to read all other Sarah Dessen books, and I'm hoping they're all just the same. The next book I read was An Abundance of Catherines, and honestly, I was really excited to read this book by John Green because everyone raved about him and his work. However, I was really disappointed, really disappointed. The book was okay, but it was not nearly as good as the first book I read. And so it was kind of a major letdown. And the first book I just breezed right through. This book it was like pulling the pages out. It just was not good. I didn't like it at all. But anyways, this book is about Colin, who has just been dumped by Catherine number 19. That means that Colin only dates Catherines, and he's dated 19 of them. So after his last breakup, he goes on a road trip to find an adventure, which takes him to the gravesite of Archduke Ferdinand. And this is what this picture is. And I put the picture there because the site is where everything started for him. His adventure, his new meaning on life, his theorem. So with this quote, I have always anagramming, never listening. It kind of is my theme for this week, that you're always doing something but listening. So it's important just to stop every once in a while and listen. Stop talking, stop thinking, just listen. The events in this story were more realistic, I felt like, than the last story. They're more common to happen. However, I didn't connect with this story as much as I did with the last one. And I was kind of wondering that maybe I didn't connect with the story because the main character was a guy, but I'm not really sure. So the video I watched this week was The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which I really like the movie. I've actually read the books before, and I watched the movie a while ago, but it was a nice refresher to watch it again and see all the things that could really happen in a 16-year-old's life. I could relate to them a lot. So this movie is about 4 best friends and their journey with one pair of jeans, hence the picture. The jeans keep their connections alive when they are in separate places. So they spend the summer apart, but the jeans equal love. So the jeans equaled their love for each other, and it spread with each other. So this quote I have here, I felt wrapped up all 3 of the realistic fiction components I read this week or watched this week. I feel like sometimes the people that are closest to us are the ones that we hurt the most because we know that they'll stay. And that can be true for the girls in the movie, but it also can be true for Annabelle because she hurts Owen, but he always is there for her. And it can be true for Colin with his best friend. He's always there for him, and understands that you'll go through these periods of time, but they'll always be there for it. And I could really connect that too, because I know I've had fights with my best friends, I've had fights with my parents, but I know that even when I'm mad at them or they're mad at me, that they're always going to be there for me. So that really makes me feel better. So overall, I really liked this genre, and I really liked that I could connect with the text so much, and I was really invested in the characters. And that really made the reading more reasonable for me, and it made it more interesting. And I know that I would recommend any Sarah Dessen book to my students as an independent reading, because I think they could learn so much from her, and she's such an easy read. Thank you for watching. Bye!